Yandy Smith, the queen of reality TV, the self-described perfect mother, and the person who has spent years preaching about loyalty and family values, was exposed in the most shocking way possible. Because guess what? Yandy didn't just lose her temper. She put her hands on Lil Mendeecees. Yes, you heard that right. Yandy slapped Lil Mendeecees across the face as if it were. Mendeecees caught her in the ACT, which was the worst part. Imagine coming home to find your wife slapping your son, and instead of confronting her, Mendeecees threw her out of the house in front of Lil Mendeecees, the neighbors, and even the paparazzi. Yandy tried to play it off and explain herself, but Mendeecees' baby was done, and now the internet is dragging Yandy through the mud. How long has this been going on? And is Yandy going to lose everything? Oh, you better sit down for this one because the receipts are juicy. Let's explore this mess thoroughly because, believe me, it's messier than anything we've ever seen. What you're about to hear will alter everything you believe to be true about Yandy Smith and Mendeecees Harris. This is not just some trivial reality TV drama, it's a reputation that could end your career. Let's take it back because you need to know how it all went down. Yandy Smith and Mendeecees Harris, the so-called power couple of hip-hop and love, have stood together through financial difficulties, cheating scandals, and even Mendeecees' time behind bars. Despite all of the drama, Yandy has portrayed herself as the ideal stepmother to Lil Mendeecees and the supportive wife. She has been out there grinning for the cameras while doing interviews about how difficult. According to insiders close to the family, Yandy's behavior toward Lil Mendeecees changed months ago. It began with small passive-aggressive remarks, side eyes, and cold vibes. Lil Mendeecees began withdrawing, avoiding Yandy, spending more time with his friends, and even becoming quiet on social media at first. At first, it was holding down the family while Mendeecees was in prison and acting like she was the glue holding the family together. Thought maybe he was just going through adolescent stuff, but this was more than that. It seems that Mendeecees noticed the change too, and he started asking questions, but Yandy dismissed it, blaming Lil Mendeecees' disrespectful behavior and attitude. However, the truth began to come out because it turned out that Yandy wasn't just making fun of Lil Mendeecees, she was actually bullying him. Rumor has it that Yandy had been struggling to keep things together ever since Mendeecees returned home. Insiders claim that Mendeecees wasn't making as much money as she used to, and Yandy was feeling pressured, frustrated, and stressed. According to one insider, Yandy felt like she was taking care of everything, running the house, taking care of the business, and raising the kids, and she began to resent Lil Mendeecees for it. That's when the emotional abuse began, and at first, it was just words. Yandy allegedly began calling Lil Mendeecees ungrateful, lazy, and a burden. However, after things became physical, sources claim that Yandy would become hostile when Lil Mendeecees didn't listen. She would grab his arm and push him away, and once she allegedly yanked his phone out of his hands so forcefully that it broke. However, what happened next may have been the tipping point, as one night when Mendeecees returned home early from a business trip, it appeared that Yandy and Lil Mendeecees had a brief argument earlier in the day over something absurd, most likely related to homework, or Lil Mendeecees thought that the chores were finished, but they weren't. He went through the front door and instantly sensed that something wasn't right. He heard Yandy's voice shouting from upstairs, so he dropped his bag and ran up the stairs directly toward Lil M's room. When he opened the door, he saw that Yandy was standing over Lil M, screaming at him. The poor child was crying and backed up against the wall, looking scared, and then Yandy's hand slapped Lil Mendeecees. Yes, Yandy Smith, the same woman who has spent years preaching about love, family values, and hip-hop, slapped Lil Mendeecees across the face as if he were a complete stranger. Mendeecees saw it happen with his own eyes, darling, and before Yandy could raise her hand again, he sprang forward, grabbed her arm, and yelled, "Have you lost your damn mind?" Yandy looked shaken. Lil Mendeecees was crying, and Mendeecees was standing between them like a protective shield. While Yandy began to stutter as she tried to explain herself, but Mendeecees wasn't listening. "You put your hands on my son. Are you crazy?" Yandy began to cry. She said that Lil Mendeecees was misbehaving and that he needed to be disciplined, but Yandy's mouth fell open when I told her to leave. She stood there in shock, trying to argue, but Ann wasn't listening. He stormed over to the closet, grabbed her suitcase, and threw it at her feet. "Pack your belongings and leave first." Moses thought he was bluffing, but then he picked up the phone and called security. Yes, Mendeecees called security on his wife, and 2 security guards arrived at the house in a matter of minutes. Yandy was still crying and pleading with him, but he simply stood there with his arms crossed and escorted her out. She tried to reason with him one last time, but he cut her off. "You think you're staying here after what you did to my son? Hell no, and you guys." There were cameras flashing, Yandy covering her face and looking completely embarrassed, and Mendeecees just stood there watching her leave without showing any emotion or regret. Within minutes, the story went viral on social media with the hashtag #YandyExpunged trending for an hour. Savage people were dragging Yandy everywhere, and Yandy actually slapped the child, thinking that no one would find out. Mendeecees did the right thing, and Yandy's entire career is over. Even other celebrities jumped in, including Tamar Braxton. I knew something wasn't right about Yandy Cardi because I liked the post that said that abuse isn't cute and that Ann protected his son. To top it all off, Rashida posted an Instagram story saying that when people show you who they are, believe them. Yandy's fan base has gone, and her brand deals are dropping like flies, but that's not even the worst part because she wasn't done yet. You know what, Yandy? The following day, this woman had the audacity to knock on Ann's house, on the door sobbing, but when Mendeecees opened it, he just stared at her before slamming it in her face. At that point, the paparazzi arrived, cameras flashing, questions flying, and Yandy covered her face, looking completely humiliated. The damage was done, but my dear, this story is far from over because the fallout from this scandal is going to get even messier. And believe me, Mendeecees is not finished exposing Yandy just yet. You're not prepared for what's going to happen next, messy baby, because guess what? Yandy wasn't going to die quietly. Nope, the same woman who was caught slapping Lil Mendeecees and evicted from the house in front of the entire neighborhood is now planning a comeback, and the way she's acting right now is shady as hell. This situation quickly escalated from messy to full-fledged war. Yandy had just been escorted out of the house by security, her mascara running. With her reputation in ruins and the paparazzi documenting every step of her collapse, most people would have fled the scene. However, instead of remaining silent, Yandy went into full damage control mode, calling up industry insiders to try to change the story and end baby the way she tried to spin it. According to people close to the situation, Yandy immediately contacted her PR team and began drafting a statement. This is the same woman who was just caught red-handed putting her hands on little men, and now she's trying to play the victim. Oh, Yandy, this isn't it, but it gets worse because Yandy's version of events was that she lost her temper and that little men had been acting out and pushing her limits. She tried to make it seem like she was the victim in the situation, like she was just trying to discipline a disrespectful child. Excuse me. Yandy reportedly told her PR team that her top priority was to win back Ann's favor because, let's face it, she wasn't about to let that love and hip-hop money dry up. According to one source, Yandy knows that if this goes wrong, she could lose everything. Her reputation, her deals, her standing on the show, so she made a desperate attempt to make things right. Less than 24 hours after being expelled, Yandy showed up at the house the following day. She was dressed down, without makeup, and appeared to have been crying all night. When Mendeecees opened the door, crocodile tears began to flow. She was trembling, sobbing, and pleading for another chance. Please, Mendeecees, I messed up. I know I did, but we've been through too much for you to just throw me away like this. Me stood there with her arms crossed and said nothing. I love you. I love our family. I just lost control, and I didn't mean to hurt him at this point. Lil N had arrived at the door, standing behind his father, and it seemed like he wasn't feeling it. You didn't mean to hurt me. You hit me, oh baby, Lil MD said, looking at Yandy. Yandy's face froze for a moment, but it was obvious that Lil Mendeecees was finished, and he wasn't falling for it either. Argued, but Messi intervened and told Lil Mendeecees that she didn't deserve to live in this house if she couldn't respect my son. He then shut the door in her face, but baby Yandy wasn't finished yet. It seems that Yandy immediately took to social media, where she shared a lengthy, heartfelt Instagram story about how difficult being a parent is and how she's been under a lot of stress lately. She didn't deny what happened, but she made it seem like it was an isolated incident. The comments read, "Oh, they weren't hacking it, girl. You slapped the child. There's no coming back from that. You weren't stressed. You were abusive. Stop trying to play the victim." Tamar Braxton tweeted, "Accountability isn't that hard, sis." Cardi B posted a shady IG story that said stress. "Nobody's perfect," she wrote. "I made a mistake, but I'm human. I just hope people can understand that I'm doing my best." Isn't a justification for violence, but the most savage response came from none other than Rashida, who went live and said, "See, that's why I stay out of other people's business, because when the truth comes out, phew." She then sipped her wine and said, Yandy was still plotting even after all that backlash. It seems that she began contacting producers from Love and Hip Hop to try and control how this scandal was handled. Being edited for the upcoming season, yes, Yandy believed she could turn this into a redemption arc. According to a production-related source, Yandy is attempting to jump ahead of the plot because she knows it will happen on the show and is desperate to portray herself as the victim. The producers were consuming it because, let's face it, messy drama equals viewers, but things took a turn when Yandy was out there attempting to spin the narrative because she was already taking them. Next step. According to sources, Mendeecees has already met with his lawyers and is thinking of filing for divorce. An insider stated that Mendeecees isn't playing, feels deceived, and is unsure if he can ever trust Yandy again. If that wasn't enough, Mendeecees has also contacted Child Protective Services because he is determined to ensure that nothing similar occurs again. The fact that Mendeecees is even thinking about filing for divorce, oh baby, tells you everything you need to know regarding how serious this is, and Yandy is panicking. It appears that she has already begun phoning mutual friends in an attempt to get them to speak with Mendeecees on her behalf, but Mendeecees is not listening. According to a source, Mendeecees is finished and he is focused on protecting his son rather than mending his marriage. Honestly, can you blame him? However, the real question is, if Mendeecees goes through with the divorce, what will that mean for Yandy's future in terms of love and hip-hop? After all, Yandy's whole storyline was about being the supportive wife, and without Mendeecees, Yandy's position on the show is looking really shaky. This story isn't even close to being finished, though, because while Yandy is out there trying to rebuild her reputation, Mendeecees is out there making moves, and the way things are going, oh, Yandy is going to lose way more than just her marriage. Additionally, the story's next twist will shock you all. If you thought this story couldn't get any crazier, you won't be prepared for this next part. The way things are going, it appears that Yandy is going to make one of the biggest comeback moves in reality TV history, but the question is whether it will work or if she will take the biggest loss of her career. Let's pick up where we left off because the fallout from this scandal just reached a whole new level. Because Yandy, wasn't about to just walk away from this mess with her head down. No, she's out here making calculated moves. Yandy's face and essentially told her she was done. She went into full damage control mode, hoping that some public sympathy and a few crocodile tears would make things better, but this time the internet wasn't buying it. Her little only human Instagram post went viral and the comments were harsh. People didn't buy the stress excuse. They saw the receipts, they heard Lil N's side of the story, and they weren't in the mood to let Yandy off the hook. One comment read, "Girl, we saw the video." Although Yandy did the right thing, things took a crazy turn because she wasn't going to let her entire career end without a fight. Yes, you read correctly. After being caught slapping Lil Mendeecees, Yandy went straight to her lawyers. Another person wrote, "Protect Lil N at all costs." The hashtags "Judgment for Me," Yandy exposed, and "Protect Lil N at all costs" were trending for days. Sources claim that Yandy's legal team got to work on a custody case right away. Yandy claimed that Meese was causing her to become estranged from the family and turning Lil Meese against her. Excuse me, you mean to tell me that after slapping Lil Meese, now that Yandy is attempting to play the victim mother card, this is some sort of delusion? Apparently, Yandy was saying that Meese was throwing her out of the house without cause and was using the child to emotionally harm her. She even attempted to make it seem as though this was When Yandy's lawyers attempted to arrange a meeting with her to discuss custody, Meese told her to talk to my lawyer a few times. This was part of a larger pattern of emotional abuse from Meese, according to an insider. He said that Yandy's entire strategy is to flip the narrative, saying that if she can make herself look like the victim, she might be able to get back in the house and back into N's life. But he wasn't playing along. Because Yandy wasn't just trying to fight this battle in the courtroom. She was trying to win the PR war. I called up her old friends in the media, and they began leaking stories left and right. Suddenly, blogs were posting articles about how Mrs. was controlling and how Yandy had been living under emotional stress for years. One headline even read N's toxic control. The situation got nasty after Yandy crossed the line. The internet was not buying it, and people began flooding the comments of these articles with things like, "Oh, now you're the victim. You slapped the kid, and now you're crying about being controlled. Girl, sit down and mess up. Oh baby, he wasn't about to let you have your way." The truth about Yandy finally comes out, and guess who is quoted as the source? Yandy's close friend. When I tell you that Mendeecees sat down for an exclusive interview with a major entertainment outlet a few days after Yandy's team leaked those stories, he didn't hold back and said, "I don't care what Yandy says to the press. She knows what she did. My son knows what she did. And anyone trying to twist this into something else, they weren't there." When the interviewer asked if there was any chance of reconciliation, DC shut down. It was taken down right away after what happened. Then he said the line that went viral, "If you put your hands on my son, you don't deserve to be in my life, baby Meese." One person commented that he was right, and another said, "Protect Lil Meese at all costs." However, Yandy wasn't finished yet, as after N's interview went viral, she pulled out her final trick and went on Instagram Live. And you guys, this was one of the most pitiful things I've ever seen. Yandy was sitting on her couch, her hair disheveled, her eyes puffy as if she had been crying for hours, and she was rocking back and forth while speaking in a quiet, shaky voice. "I'm not perfect. I know I made mistakes, but he knows how much I love that boy and how hard I've tried." Then she began to cry bitterly. "I hope people will forgive me. I'm not a bad person. I'm just human. Stop being a victim, girl." Yandy's attempt to change the story had officially failed, but the worst part was that while Yandy was out there trying to repair her reputation, Meese was out there taking legal action. According to a source close to Meese, he is not only considering divorce anymore, he has already filed for it, citing irreconcilable differences and emotional and physical harm to his child. However, it doesn't stop there. Filed for full custody of Lil Meese. According to an insider, Meese wants full custody because he believes that Yandy is unstable and that after what happened, he doesn't trust her around his son. Based on the current situation, it appears that Meese is going to win this case because, in addition to the evidence of what she did, the public is already on N's side and Yandy is running out of options. According to reports, producers from Love and Hip Hop are considering removing Yandy from the show because they don't want the backlash to harm their brand. And months, he's already scheduling meetings with producers to land his spin-off. That's right, Mendeecees is going to take center stage while Yandy fades into the background. And honestly, after everything Yandy did, she deserves it. What do you guys think? Is this the end for Yandy, or does she have one more move up her sleeve? Because of the way things are going, Yandy may be down, but we all know she's not out just yet. And trust me, if there's going to be another twist, we'll be the first to. We need to talk about this, so please share your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on those notifications, because I assure you that this drama is far from over. Do you think that Yandy is done for good, or does she have one last trick up her sleeve? Do you think that Mendeecees is acting appropriately by requesting custody, or is there more to this story than we know? There will be more receipts soon, and when I'll be right here with you. Stay tuned for the exclusive.